as you say, the consistency is not there. Even if you've decided that Hasan Piker is too far out there, even if you've decided that this is going to be the moral line you stand, we're not going to go on his show because he's a bigot, which is not true. Why are you going on Bill Maher? Cory Booker loves going on Bill Maher. Bill Maher said 100 times more bigoted things than Hasan Piker, not just about not just about religious minorities like Muslims, but black people and women. And yet Democratic senators, male and female, Democratic members of the House, male and female, go on Bill Maher all the time. Please be consistent.
My mom wants to know why there are so many hit pieces on you this week. It's because Democrats are more worried about people like myself that represent people like you and our voices being heard. Than Donald Trump continuing to propagandize. Their priorities are not about combating Trump. Their priorities are very clearly about aligning with MAGA, as a matter of fact, to consistently attack their left flank. And that's precisely what they're doing. I think it's pretty clear. Why. That's why I always say, look at my naysayers, look at their profiles, look at their background, and key search the word Gaza, Israel, genocide, and you will know exactly why this is happening. Okay? They're worried about prominent critics of Israel gaining a foothold in American discourse. They don't want prominent critics of Israel to be legitimized. They think, foolishly, that people did not independently arrive at their conclusions about Israel after 2.5 years of genocide, but instead they got hypnotized by the likes of someone like myself. And they can't attack the overwhelming majority of the population that is demanding a change in our relationship with Israel, especially at a time when it's very clear that we're waging this incredibly costly and incredibly bloody war at the behest of Israel. They can't, criticize the overwhelming majority of the public, so they just seek out outspoken critics of Israel to try and humiliate them, to try and bully them into submission. And it hasn't worked, but that hasn't stopped them. They're going to keep writing these fucking articles. I think it's backfiring on them regardless. But at the end of the day, the question remains, what's worse? A genocide or a vulgar critic of genocide, vulgarity being deployed while criticizing said genocide, right? They're not attacking me necessarily. They're attacking everyone that has the same attitude, everyone that shares the same resentment. To use a Trumpian term, they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way. And they have not ceased in their ridiculous attacks. Click this link and you will see who hates you. Bulwark. Hasan Piker is drawn to political violence, whether it's Hamas rapists, Mangione shooting a defenseless and innocent healthcare executive, or Putin pursuing his imperial expansion. Sounds awfully familiar. This whole piece is unhinged, penned by a former writer for the National Review, former staffer in the Reagan administration, cheerleader of the Iraq War, who wrote in 2008 for the Jewish Policy Center a missive demanding that the U.S. not leave Iraq but take Vienna, saying if we withdrew, the Islamists from Bali to London to Gaza to Islamabad would have felt a rush of adrenaline. Our friends would have shrunk from us to make their separate deals. Buoyed by victory against the full might of American arms in Iraq, the Islamists would doubtless have begun a new campaign of terror throughout the world, who in this very piece is justifying a war with Iran. In late October 2023, she justified the genocide by saying, after a few days of this horror, even people of goodwill will begin to forget their sympathy for Israel and demand that the killing stop. What good does it do, they will ask. Aren't both sides equally at fault? But both sides are not equally at fault here. Gaza is not occupied, but even if it were, it would not justify Hamas's crimes against humanity. For anyone this bloodthirsty to feel they have the right to tut-tut about decency is truly beyond the pale. This person is the epitome of the rot infesting every square inch of the earth. Yeah. These are straight up rapacious, monstrous, bloodthirsty war criminals and defenders of ongoing war crimes writing these sorts of articles about how dangerous I am for American public discourse. They will use choice quotes. They will misunderstand the point I'm making. One of the classic ones is something that even Ross Douthat did which I heard this person did as well. They said, you think Luigi was an adventurer? No, I said Luigi was engaging in adventurism, which is a negative term. It's not a positive term. It's a unproductive violence that doesn't yield positive outcomes. It's something that Marxists are against. We believe in organized movements, okay? Now, of course, it's a lot of stuff like that, right? It's a lot of stuff like that, and people will continue these attacks. So I ask you, what do you think is worse? Someone who's an outspoken critic of Israel or someone who's a defender of Israel? What do you think is worse? Someone who uses vulgar language at times because he's obviously passionate. I'm obviously passionate about the things that I'm covering and have to carry the weight of all these atrocities that I see day in, day out, just as you do, channeling your frustrations as well. Or someone who's very civil in their language, but civilly defending unjustifiable systems that are objectively violent, and even Israel's genocide. I think many Americans, when faced with those two options, will realize that they probably have more sympathies for someone like myself. But I will say once again, I welcome their hatred. Okay? I'm fine. I have been on the receiving end of these smears, these vicious smears, at a time when the majority was not on my side. Okay? This community has been there through it all. So if I was eating this in the beginning of Israel's genocide, when the overwhelming majority of the American public were totally not ready to hear someone say Palestinians have a right to live free of the Israeli occupation, what makes you think I feel any type of shame or any fear right now when it has become the majority position? You know what I mean? All of this stuff, all of these hit pieces are simply ineffective. They have as much emphasis and as much power as we give it, right? They have as much emphasis and as much power as Democratic electeds give it. If they choose to go, what are we talking about? Shut up. It's done. This Israel stuff is over. Stop fucking complaining. Stop lying about critics of Israel being anti-Semitic. Let's move in a more productive direction in our discourse, in our policy making, in our strategies, especially at a time when America and Israel are waging this bloody war against Iran. Then they have no motion. They will just continuously yell to an increasingly shrinking audience. They are objectively hysterical. And on top of that, they're pretty violent. Yeah, earlier this week, centrists were trying to cancel Hasan Piker. Now, Diana DeGetta, 30-year-old corporate dem, is buying ads on Hasan's stream because she's in an intense primary against Malak Kiros, who is backed by the DSA. Talk is cheap. Follow the money. They know exactly what young voters watch. Exactly. To be fair, that's precisely the reason why they complain. That is the reason why. It's because in the past, Democrats were used to just gatekeeping organs of propaganda. Democrats were used to picking and choosing who they listen to, who has influence over their base. Okay? They did. Now they don't. And for many smart Democratic Party politicians, this isn't a problem at all. It just forces them to be a little bit more responsive to the needs of the masses, to the needs of their base, to the demands of their base. However, There are still people who want to go back to business as usual politics, those who want to gatekeep who you should listen to and who you should not listen to. Lucky for us, because of the unbelievable growth of independent media, it doesn't really matter if they just consistently complain and try to belittle me and try to attack me. And obviously we know why they're doing it. They're doing it because they can't attack the message. So they have to attack the messenger. This is something that I've had to deal with my whole career. And it's usually, most commonly, attacks that I received from the right, from the far right, from Republicans. Now, I'm hearing this from the right-wing elements within the Democratic Party.
Hasan Piker by the Democratic Corporation. I'm not calling them the Democratic Party anymore. This is strategic timing because progressives have been winning races in the last 5 states that recently held their Democratic primary elections. And there are 45 more states between May and August that are holding theirs. And there's a lot of progressives running against centrist Democrats. And by demonizing Hasan Piker, they are demonizing all progressives and all Democratic socialists. They are demonizing him so bad that they are literally saying he needs to be pushed out of the party, which means you and I have to be pushed out of the party. And why are we extreme? Because we want Medicare for all, because we want livable wages, because we don't want to fund all of these wars to make billionaires even more billions, because we want money out of politics. That is extreme. And the organization, the think tank behind the attacks, it's not AIPAC. It's another group aligned with AIPAC, similar to AIPAC, but it's the Democratic version. It's Third Way. Third Way controls the Democratic Party. Third Way is the centrist party. Third Way is who told all of us the messaging that we've got to have incremental changes. We got to work with people in the middle. And therefore, after nearly 30 years, we still don't have fucking health care or money out of politics or livable wages because we all, as Democratic voters, bought their bullshit. And here's the thing. Donald Trump and Republicans did one thing right. They showed us that rapid change, drastic change can be undertaken in just 1 year when you have the will. And the Democratic Corporation does not have the will to serve you and me and the working class. Progressives do. Hasan Piker does. And Bernie Sanders does. And that's why they're all being attacked. The Democratic Corporation is not spending the time to attack Republicans or Donald Trump. They spend more time attacking us. What does that fucking tell you? What is the conclusion at the end of the day? That the Democrats, the centrist Democrats, do just as good under Republicans being in charge. The rest of us are fucked.
That's what it is. I'm glad that people are getting it. Disturbing. Dem doubles down after appearance with anti-Semitic streamer. He's not just anti-Israel, he's anti-American. He tries to justify the September 11 attacks. Remember, not one single Democrat is center Democrat. They're all far-left socialists. What the Democrats fail to understand is the hypocrisy of their actions. So is Mamdani's wife. Wow. The fuck? Or if anyone think the Democrats care about America, I think, again, you are losing your mind. It's kind of crazy that the Fox News guys have the Fox News comments have actually whipped back into submission, like total cattle status. Back in the day, they used to watch stuff like this and be like, well, you know, we don't fuck with Israel either. Why should we be Israel first? Now they're like, yeah, that's right. If you hate Israel, you hate me and you hate America.
California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna defending his podcast appearance with controversial internet personality and anti-Israel commentator Hasan Piker, who has tried to justify the deadly October 7th attacks. Listen.
I have not done that. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Sure.
Do you have any regrets about appearing on his show?
None, and I would go again. But I, of course, condemn those comments. The lesson of the last election is we've got to be out there. We've got to engage. It's a complex, messy, multiracial democracy. I will defend my views, but the people who are saying don't engage will cost us future elections.
Joining us now is senior writer for the Washington Examiner and Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, good morning.
What I find really strange is that the exact same forces that we saw with like the apolitical commentary sphere and the exact same mania they're doing again, but this time in the professional level. This time, Fox News is doing cancel culture. This time there's an allegiance between like some of the most right-wing Trumpian forces and some of these people in the Democratic Party. There's a lot of liberals that are self-identifying liberals that are influencers on Twitter that are totally on board with this classic, very clear right-wing smear campaign. And I find that very strange. Does this not cause you a little bit of concern? Do you not look at this and go, wait a minute, I hate MAGA, I hate Donald Trump, but these guys are saying the same things I'm saying? Does that not cause you any concern at all? You don't even think about that at all? I understand why Republicans do it. I hate them. But if you're a liberal and you're anti-Trump, if you are actively trying to unseat Republicans, if you want to fight against fascism in this country, then what the fuck are you doing? Fighting against me. I'm 57, a lifelong Democrat, found you as a result of all the established Democrats attacking you, and as a result, I'm in your court, which I'm sure they didn't expect. Keep it up. We need more of you and less of these tools in the party. Hell yeah. Right now, the crisis that we are facing is absolute devastation, okay? Lock the fuck in. This is all I'm saying to the liberals. If you spend all of your days attacking me as a prominent critic of Israel, as a prominent critic of Trump, your focus is not on the real vectors of harm. Your focus is on keeping your fucking careers in the party.
Morning to you. Tell us a little bit more about Hasan Piker, what he said in the past, so people at home can make their own determination on if this congressman should have been on this podcast.
Yeah, it's always the same shit. They're doing the liberal ass cancel culture, like quote mining, clips out of context, making it seem like I'm against convictions that I've fought for a decade at this point. It's classic.
Thanks, Carly. I mean, I wrote it on X. I'll say it here on national television. This is pathetic. This is absolutely pathetic from Congressman Ro Khanna. First, to answer your question, he made the argument that joining Hasan Piker on his podcast is equivalent to joining Joe Rogan. At last check, Rogan, unlike Hasan Piker, didn't call Jews inbreds. It is Piker who said that America...
I didn't do that. But also, Joe Rogan has said way more heinous shit about Jews. What the fuck? Why do you have to watch and read every single hit piece? These people will not stop. At some point, you just have to ignore. This shit cannot be good for your mental health. Chat needs to stop linking every single negative thing people say or do about you. Just tell them to fuck off. You'll keep doing your thing and they can keep crying. I mean, we got to see the angles of attack, okay?
America deserved 9/11. Nearly 3,000 people died on that day. This is the same Hasan Piker who said it doesn't matter to him if rapes occurred during the October 7th attacks, 2023. This is a guy who's called his critics, quote, rabid ultra-Zionist pigs. He also called on Republicans to kill Senator Rick Scott. And Ro Khanna told Meet the Press yesterday, as you just played, he has no regrets going on a show like that and would happily do it again. Why? Because Piker has 2.8 million followers, mostly young men. Is Ro Khanna and Democrats...
I think this kind of like smarmy whining is unironically exactly what annoyed a lot of like independents, for the record. It gets like increasingly more unhinged. The quotes get like distributed and then changed every single time, and then they just like add more stuff to it. But again, at the end of the day, the president is Donald Trump. You guys defend Donald Trump with regular frequency. Donald Trump is the president. He's not a Twitch streamer. If you defend the president saying unhinged things like yesterday, saying he is going to, he said, open the fucking strait or else I'm going to do terrorism to you. You know, may Allah awaken the people. Whatever the fuck he said, right? And you defend that, and that's defensible. You can't turn around and be like, but this Twitch streamer, he's vulgar. It just doesn't make any sense, right? And I think a lot of people in the margins will see that because this is just whiny. It's totally fucking whiny, nonsensical bullshit, right?
Really that desperate for votes that they'll cater to the anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party, which is a real thing, and it's a disturbing epidemic that is going on the far left in the year 2026. But Khanna said, hey, I'll be happy to go back. You don't give somebody like Hasan Piker this kind of attention, this kind of platform. It only rewards the kind of rhetoric that I just described. And I thought that he was smarter than this. I thought he was more towards the center. He's clearly...
It's so funny that these guys literally also absolutely fucking hate Democrats. Why should any Democrat listen to you? I mean, there's clearly plenty who do, unfortunately. There's clearly plenty in the Democratic media side that are leaning into these like smears and leaning into this like hit piece laden cancel culture campaign. But why should the average Democrat listen to you? You're fucking Fox News. So once again, I welcome this. I don't have a problem with this at all. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Keep it up.
Proving that he is not.
Joe, he literally says, I'm doing this for the votes, so this doesn't cost us future elections. Yeah. It does beg the question, and we can't answer it because we're running out of time here. You're going to gain some votes, maybe, but aren't you going to lose a lot of people who, I don't know, thought 9/11?
You're Fox News. Don't you love that? Don't you love that? You don't want a Democrat to win. I don't understand what this argument is. Again, you don't want Democrats to win. So why are you giving unsolicited advice to a Democratic congressperson? It's so stupid.
11 was a bad thing. Yeah. You know,
great point.
Right?
Good all around.
Plus your integrity.
Plus your integrity.
Yeah. All right, Joe, thank you so much for joining us on this
I
one.
mean, I think what they're trying to do is like get me killed by a Republican, probably. Like that's what it is, right? Like they're trying to get some Republican to take matters in their own hands and like assassinate me or some shit. Have you ever had anyone on your show that has sold swastika t-shirts? Because Joe Rogan definitely did. Yeah, I have not. And I never will. Unfortunately, don't know many Dems or Libs other than my brother. He fucks with you now after recent events. Yeah, in 2021 and 2022, Sarah Longwell's 25's firm made $950,000 each year from the Koch network, according to Stand Together's tax filings. This is who's telling Democrats which streams they should and shouldn't go on. Interesting. If you were cashing Coke checks in 2022, I don't think you have a standing to nitpick a streamer's comments from like a decade ago. Unironically, this is an all publicity is good publicity diff. I personally know like 4 people who have come over because of this. Yeah, I think considering that this is an angle of attack that is once again a 90-10 issue on our side, considering that I channel the exact same resentments that many Americans have, right? This kind of stuff is not going to work. And I don't mind it because I feel like it shows people where these right-wing forces and their priorities lie. What is this? So the Sarah Longwell lady has spent days crashing out over elected Dems interacting with Hasan Piker, all while apparently being a huge fan of the guy, most famous for getting caught sexting and trading news with an underage Discord kittens lol. Ew, she retweeted Sex Pestiny. Nice. Yeah, that's exactly the type of person that Sarah Longwell is aligning with. The Koch brothers, ultra Zionist Destiny, who is a staunch defender of Israel and its genocide. Yeah, like I said, I welcome people to make up their own minds. You're all adults. You all have critical thinking skills, okay? I'm sure there's plenty in here that saw the wave of attacks and were like, let me take a look at what this guy's all about. Let me see for myself. And when you do see for yourself, you realize, oh, never mind. This guy's not the monster that they are trying to present him as.
Week or so, which is Hasan Piker. And I just want to preface this with a few points. So for those of you who don't know, Hasan Piker is a big Twitch streamer, very big in leftist politics. And there's been a lot of debate recently amongst a lot of the commentariat about whether Democrats should be aligned with him or not, campaigning with him, going on his show or not. And the debate is kind of senseless and mindless at this point. It's kind of people return to their same talking points if they have nothing else. But there's one thing that I want to get at, which is that it feels like much of the criticism of Hasan Piker feels just like how a lot of these people addressed college protesters and the uncommitted movement, which is to say, either Hasan Piker has so much of an impact and therefore we need to discuss whether we want to be associated with him or not, or he's irrelevant, no one listens to him, he's a nothing person, he doesn't matter to me. There's that aspect. There's another aspect that I think is important, which is that he's being held to these standards for comments he made in the past, some which he has apologized for or some which he has just explained or contextualized more. But if most of Washington, D.C. was rightly held to the same standards that he was falsely being held to, most of Congress and half of our friends in the mainstream press would not have a job. That should be made clear.
I mean, look, this is a big conversation. I would just say this. The obsession with Hasan Piker is not organic. Let's just first be clear. This is clearly a coordinated campaign where, somebody on a WhatsApp group or someone in some Democratic Party think tank or group has decided that this is what we need to do. Go back to Bill Clinton. Remember Sister Soldier moment, this calling out of a rapper that Bill Clinton was expected to, and he did, to show that he was a moderate. The Democratic establishment always wants that moment. They want that moment where you call out someone on your own side to show how centrist you are. And now
It has never worked. It is ineffective. Okay? It's ineffective. That's it. It's unbelievably stupid for Democrats to do that. It's just as stupid for Democrats to turn around and vote for messaging bills that say that they're like they're anti-communist, anti-socialist, because all that does is give credence to the argument that like socialism is bad. But guess what? Republicans are not going to stop calling you socialist anyway. They're going to continue calling you socialist. So why are you giving them an opportunity to dunk on your ideology? They will turn around and say, look at these idiots. Look at these idiotic socialists. They think they can fool us by voting for this anti-socialist bill because they also recognize how bad socialism is. Right? That's it. That's what this is. It's no different. Stop left punching. Stop attacking your left flank. Have you been asked for comment by these critical reports in the past couple of days? Yes, of course. And I will always give them. This is the person. Sarah Longwell and the Bulwark neocons were celebrating, infiltrating, and taking over the Democratic Party a week before the 2024 election. Pursuing their approval is what caused Kamala Harris to lose.
Thing about the cheering that I loved. Speaking of Stonewall. But also, I think it's amazing when you get 75,000 presumably libs on the ellipse. And she's like, we're going to have the most lethal fighting force. And people are like, yeah. And she's like, and we're going to secure the border. And people are like, yeah. And I was just like, this is, and she's, we are going to be leaders in the world. And we're not going to let these guys push us around. And I was like, man, the world's really changed.
Yeah. Yeah. All of those things led to this defeat, by the way.
Did the neocons just take over the Democratic Party?
Don't say that.
Yeah, don't say it. But I will say she is, look, man, she's leaning into, I'm going mainstream. And, whenever she does, there's a couple, price gouging or whatever. I'm like, boo. But like,
yeah, she hates the only popular policy of Kamala Harris and loves all of the unpopular shit that she said. This is why Kamala Harris lost, by the way. This is why we have fascism right now. So it's insane that they're trying to do this again. They're trying to do it again. And they're also trying to do it in Michigan, where it failed.
Pike has become that person. And as you say, the contradiction is there. You have David Frum saying, well, he doesn't even have an audience. MSNBC has a bigger audience than Hasan Piker, which is absurd when you compare like for like. It's not true. But also, if he doesn't have a big audience, then why do you care? Why do you just ignore him? And then the funny one is like, would you go on a show? And as Hasan pointed out, I didn't ask half these Democrats to even come on my show. Cory
Violet
Booker went on
Vance,
Crooked
thank you for the
Media this
25
weekend, was
gifted.
asked by John Lovett about this, and he threw his comms director under the bus. He pointed his comms guy off screen. He goes, well, I don't even know who this guy is. Number one, you're lying. Of course you know who he is. And if you don't know who he is, aren't you supposed to be the social media guy for Democratic senators? How can you not know who he is? But then he throws his comms guy under the bus and says, well, my press guy just read out some quotes, and I said, well, they sound bad, so I'm not going on the show. The biggest point you'd make, and I've made this point online, is, as you say, the consistency is not there. Even if you've decided that Hasan Piker is too far out there, even if you've decided that this is going to be the moral line you stand, we're not going to go on his show because he's a bigot, which is not true. Why are you going on Bill Maher? Cory Booker loves going on Bill Maher. Bill Maher said 100 times more bigoted things than Hasan Piker, not just about not just about religious minorities like Muslims, but black people and women. And yet Democratic senators, male and female, Democratic members of the House, male and female, go on Bill Maher all the time. Please be consistent. John Fetterman was just on Mark Levin. Where were the Democrats? I didn't see Democrats lining up. I didn't see Third Way lining up to attack Fetterman. Why was he on?
And the thing is, John Fetterman is on Mark Levin to agree with Mark Levin, especially on the issue of Israel. Yeah, the reason why they didn't complain about that is because they agree with Mark Levin in theory and in principle, and that is precisely the reason why they don't talk about Fetterman, a Democratic senator, criticizing the rest of the party for not being sufficiently pro-Israel. Some of this is because they legitimately believe the idea that, like, pivoting to the center, they genuinely believe the idea that pivoting to the center is good. It's good politics and it's good policy, right? They're wrong. But some of it is because they're also in agreement with Mark Levin. They're in agreement with John Fetterman. And of course, they're not going to criticize John Fetterman for doing that because they like that John Fetterman is pro-Israel. That's it. Because for many of these people, they're just Israel first. They're pro-Israel. Either they're getting paid or they have this ideological reason, social conditioning, whatever it may be. It's very clear that if they're spending most of their time attacking me right now instead of Donald Trump and Israel, when the public is demanding that, when the public is there, it's obvious that you can't make an electoralist argument here. There is no real pro-Israel argument for winning elections. It does not exist. That's it.
Mark Levin show. Mark Levin is a horrible anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian bigot, warmonger. Why are you on his show? Why is the top Democratic senator from Pennsylvania on Mark Levin's show? So the double standards are just brazen.
And yeah, I think that just gets to the core of this, which is that most of the people that are peddling this argument are not like a lay person. Like the people who are strongly feeling this only feel this way because they cannot contend with Hasan's main criticisms. So they just have to undermine him as
It's also about Israel. Let's just be very clear.
Well, I mean that's the point. Yeah.
I mean, look, if Hasan Piker was pro-Israel, this would not be part of the conversation. The idea that, he said something offensive about Orthodox Jews, which he did. I'm not defending it. He's made offensive remarks about inbred people. He argues that he was talking about settlers. He says he uses it for lots of groups, not language I would use. But the idea that that's what's bothering these Democrats when they're happy to go on Mark Levin or Bill Maher or all these other shows with much more offensive hosts, I just don't buy it. Also, the President of the United States is the most anti-Semitic mainstream politician in modern American history. I don't see Democrats getting worked up about that.
This is the last piece I'm gonna look at real quick. The Guardian quoted me and wrote an article about Arab Americans in Michigan and how they're feeling in this process, this media cycle, like how they are perceiving this media cycle, this round of attacks against Abdul El-Sayed and myself. Arab Americans in Michigan warn centrist Democrats attacking Hasan Piker. They haven't learned from 2024. Heated debate in a key swing state probably marks a preview of things to come as midterms ramp up. A heated debate over criticism of Israel and the political influence for Hasan Piker's role on the left has bitterly divided progressives and establishment Democrats in a U.S. Senate race in Michigan, an electorally critical swing state. The ongoing controversy probably marks a preview of things to come as the midterm and 2028 election seasons ramp up, and it is drawing warnings from Arab American leaders in a state where the party's Israel policy badly damaged Kamala Harris's campaign. Mallory McMorrow, a state senator favored by much of the establishment, is locked in a tight three-way race with the progressive Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens, the U.S. representative who's backed by AIPAC. El-Sayed and Piker last week announced plans to rally together. In response, McMorrow, the Anti-Defamation League, the Trump administration, Third Way, and Senator Elisa Slotkin and other pro-Israel figures went on the offensive, labeling Piker as anti-Semitic and seeking to tar El-Sayed over his association with him. Piker, who is Muslim and has an audience of 3 million on the Twitch streaming platform, often strongly criticizes Israel over its assaults on Gaza, Lebanon invasion, war with Iran, treatment of Palestinian people, and other issues, sometimes in provocative terms. He described Hamas as 1,000 times better than the fascist settler colonial apartheid state. He's also a heavyweight political force with a massive following among younger voters. Piker interviewed and earned praise from Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, and was invited by the Harris campaign to live stream from the Democratic National Convention in August 2024. 7 Arab American leaders who spoke with The Guardian say centrist Democrats' attacks on El-Sayed and Piker are strategic and moral blunders that show the party is making the same mistakes that fueled their 2024 electoral demise in this critical swing state and nationally. They dismissed the attacks as an effort to censor criticism of Israel and an expression of anti-Arab bias that imbues much of the political establishment. Michigan holds the nation's largest Arab American population per capita in the U.S. and is anchored by a huge Lebanese diaspora, largely from southern Lebanon. The controversy unfolds amid Israel's assault on southern Lebanon, and as Israel and its military actions are deeply unpopular among Democrats. They are not showing empathy towards Lebanese and Muslim communities, said Bassem El-Kara, executive director of Council on American Islamic Relations Action, CARE. Harris lost Michigan in 2024 by a narrow 80,000 votes. And by one estimate, support for Israel cost her 100,000 votes here. A November 2024 Guardian analysis found a 22,000 vote swing away from Democrats in 3 cities with the largest Arab American and Muslim populations alone. Nationally, one poll found it to be the top issue for Democrats who did not support Harris. Some in the Democratic Party haven't learned from 2024, El-Kara added, especially in a battleground state. I think they're going to suffer the consequences in 2028 if they don't rectify their strategy. And for the record, this is not like an ethnic tension. This is not an ethnic conflict. There are plenty of people beyond the Arab communities that also take issue with the Democratic Party refusing to mount the significant legislative pressure necessary to claw back some control and to reevaluate our relationship with Israel, right? That's it. There's a lot of people. It's not just like Lebanese, Arabs, Arab Americans, Muslims in general. It's far beyond that. This moment in Michigan is particularly sensitive. McMorrow and her surrogates have said Piker should be shunned because the rallies come less than a month after the Temple Israel synagogue attack, which was widely condemned by the Arab American community in Michigan. McMorrow did not respond to a request for comment. That is not somebody that you should be campaigning with a moment when there's clearly a lot of pain and trauma across our state, McMorrow said to Jewish Insider, while highlighting that children were at the synagogue. You don't fan the flames. But Arab American and Muslim community leaders who spoke with The Guardian stressed that both sides' suffering can be acknowledged as the Middle East conflict intensifies. They see the exclusion of their pain as a deliberate political maneuver. Israel's Lebanon invasion has displaced more than 1 million civilians in recent months, and the IDF has begun wiping out Lebanese villages that some Michiganders or their families are from, in accordance with the model in Gaza, in the words of Israel's defense minister. The IDF also, as recently as this past week, openly stated that they will go to Christian and non-Shia villages in southern Lebanon and attack places that they suspect of harboring the Shia Muslim population. This is identical to what the Nazi occupation looked like in Eastern Europe. It's unbelievable. Virtually every one of the 120,000 Lebanese American people in Michigan has family members or friends who have been displaced or killed by Israel. Arab Americans who spoke with The Guardian said, there's an asymmetry of compassion and an asymmetry of political pressure. Arabs get the pressure and Israel gets the compassion, said James Zogby, a Lebanese American member of the Democratic National Committee. No one will pay attention to the human element of the situation, which is that their ancestral village is gone and their homes are demolished. In an interview with The Guardian, El-Sayed expressed a similar sentiment. The Arab community, their voice and their pain has been rendered insignificant or even worse, an inconvenient aspect of our political situation. National polling shows more Democrats sympathize with Palestinians than Israelis. Support for Israel's war in Gaza plummeted as low as 8% among party voters, and the vast majority of Democrats support an arms embargo. Piker frequently expresses sympathy for the Palestinian people, criticizes Israel's wars, and calls for an arms embargo. Piker called the Temple Israel attack a heinous act of violence, but he said he also believed that it was Islamophobic to say, oh, this Muslim critic of Israel who has the majority opinion on Israel should not be going to a campaign rally. Michigan is a state The Democrats lost for this exact reason. When asked about the comment in which he labels some Orthodox Jews in Israel inbred, Piker told The Guardian he uses the term as a pejorative against ethno-religious and racial supremacists of all different varieties. It has nothing to do with Judaism. He has largely said he stands by his comments, but has also recently expressed regret about the inbred comment, saying he could have been more careful. Piker said he regularly educates listeners about the dangers of anti-Semitism and how it is the canary in the coal mine of fascism. I will continue to do this because anti-Semitism is morally repugnant. But the difference is I believe that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are morally repugnant, and I'm an anti-genocide, anti-fascist, and therefore an anti-Zionist, Piker said. Though many of El Sayed's and Piker's political positions are aligned, El Sayed told The Guardian he did not agree with everything Piker has said, and he also offered an explanation on X. But he said winning requires talking with anyone from Joe Rogan to Hasan Piker. To illustrate the point, El Sayed appeared on Fox News last week. The interests of all Michiganders and Arab Americans are one and the same, El Sayed said. Every dollar that we spend on aimless, illegal, unjustified war in Iran that allows Israel to annex southern Lebanon and destroy people and their lives is a dollar not spent to improve our schools, provide people with health care, and fix our broken infrastructure. Boom. Something that I say all the time as well.